Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, your space for Black news, views, and opinions. Today is Thursday, February 17th. I'm Seth Lemon.
I'm Nielle.
I'm Romeo.
I'm Demi Lobo. And on today's report, federal prosecutors reveal more racist messages from one of the men who killed Ahmaud Arbery. Meanwhile, Vice President Harris is on her way to Germany to reassure Ukraine and Eastern Europe we have their back. Then, a black New Jersey kid who gets in a fight with a white teen gets arrested, but the other kid goes home.
Plus, a woman gets a PPP loan and spends most of it on a hitman, and Drizzy Drake writes a poem to OBJ.
We have all that and so much more, and we're going to do it in our voice and in our truth. So if you're ready, let's talk about it.
Federal prosecutors showed a jury more texts and social media posts from two of the men who killed Ahmaud Arbery in the federal hate crimes trial that is ongoing. An FBI analyst says several of the messages between Travis McMichael, who shot Arbery, used the N-word. A message from 2019 discusses Travis's new job and why he liked that he did not have to work with black people. The text said, quote, "They ruin everything. That's why I like what I do now, not a N-word in sight." In another text message from Travis McMichael, he complained about black people at a local restaurant. And that quote said, "They need to change the name from Cracker Barrel to N-word bucket." There was also a video shared by Michael on Facebook of a black boy on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and the music was swapped out for a racist song, Alabama N-word. In a comment under a video of BLM protesters, McMichael wished for a semi-automatic rifle to shoot people that he described as a racial epithet and monkeys. And in another post, he advocated for driving into a group of black people with a vehicle. Doesn't seem like prosecutors have too much work to do here because the evidence seems to speak for itself.
Absolutely. It's just rolling in. It's safe to say that these men will be in jail, I'm hoping, and I know a lot of people are hoping for the rest of their lives. And so there is a feeling that overcomes me knowing that these awful racist humans are off the street and can't do this to another person. But what's just really sad is that this does not bring back Ahmaud Arbery, and his life had to kind of be the guinea pig to kind of get these people off of the street. That's the saddest part.
Yeah, it is the saddest part. And you know what? I have sympathy for his family. And I'm going to tell you why. Because his actions, what is going to happen to his family down the road, the things they're going to have to face and encounter. And I'll tell you why I say this. Their whole community can't feel the same way this man feels. Obviously, there's a lot of hate in his voice, in the words that he texts and that he put on social media. But look, they got to live with this as well. So he's not only affected, he took a life that still should be here. His life is gone officially. And now his family will have to suffer as well moving forward. It's just a domino effect in the wrong way.
And hopefully this will send a message to white vigilantes that there are consequences to your actions. And if you see something, call the police and don't take matters into your own hands.
Yeah, definitely.
Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to meet this weekend with Ukrainian President Zelensky at a security conference that's happening in Germany. Analysts say the meeting, which is scheduled for Saturday, will be used to underscore the United States' commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty. The vice president is also expected to talk with NATO officials as well as leaders from Latvia, Lithuania, as well as Estonia.
Meanwhile, Russia is adding another 7,000 troops to the Ukraine border. Intelligence officials say it's an example of Russia's lies about pulling back from the border. State Department officials say Vladimir Putin's claims of being open to diplomacy is false. New estimates of the number of Russian troops at the border has increased to 150,000.
In some international news, U.S. jets rushed to escort Russian bombers out of a restricted zone over eastern Syria. The Russian cargo plane, flanked by two backfire bombers, flew across Iraq without providing any notification. U.S. pilots told the Russians they needed to give notice before flying into the area, but they kept going. And that's when the U.S. had some F-16 scramble and escort the Russians out of the area. The incident, it comes at a strange time as President Biden has sent U.S. troops to Eastern Europe and as Russia positions 140,000 troops on the Ukrainian border.
Over 100 Democrats in Congress are pushing President Biden to address the often inhumane treatment of black migrants by immigration authorities. Concern is growing after violent images surfaced last fall of Haitian migrants fleeing the country in their home country. Democrats are asking the president to review law enforcement and court records of how black migrants are treated in comparison to other migrants at the border.
It was another day of testimony from the former Minneapolis cops charged in the death of George Floyd. Yesterday, Total was on the stand again, and the jury got to hear from former officer J. Alexander King. King testified that he deferred to Derek Chauvin as his senior officer the day of Floyd's deadly arrest. King was on his third shift after field training when he responded to the call. Former officer Thomas Lane is also expected to take the stand in his own defense in the coming days.
An arrest of a black New Jersey 8th grader involved in a fight with a white kid has many questioning why officers only detained the African-American child. Bridgewater cops, they're under fire for pinning the 14-year-old who was not resisting arrest to the ground. Now, Saturday's confrontation at the Bridgewater Commons Mall was captured on cell phone video. It shows the two teens in an argument that quickly turns into a fight. When officers arrived, they pushed the white teen to the couch and knocked the African-American child to the ground there. You see that one officer, and the other one came over and put her knee on his neck, releasing the white child. Now, the black child was arrested, banned from the mall for the next 3 years. The white teen, not arrested at all. Governor Phil Murphy says he's concerned about what happened. Somerset County prosecutors are investigating the officer's conduct. The video is absolutely disturbing, and what I saw was the initial reaction to assume that because you walked up on two kids of different colors involved in a physical altercation, and the black teen was defending himself appropriately, but much more viciously than the white guy who hit him first. It would assume, you might assume that he was the aggressor, but he was defending himself. And then to separate the two, put the white child on the couch, pin the black child to the ground, and then release the white child so that you can go over and attend to the black man who is already on the ground with another officer already pinning him down to add your knee to the situation. I don't really understand her thinking.
Absolutely. You know, I'm really happy that Ben Crump is on this case and taking care of it. But you know what really grind my gears watching this video the most was the white kid sitting there. You know that you got this whole fight started. So the fact that he just sat there sly on the couch, and that just really enraged me to no end. Like, he should have taken that opportunity to say, you know what, hey, I was actually a part of this as well. Like, and then the family, I really feel bad for the black family, the trauma that this kid is going to have to endure for the rest of his life being treated like this. I hope that they need to, therapy, something needs to happen ASAP, because I wouldn't even be able to fathom this as a parent.
The NAACP is calling for the two officers to be fired, suspended. This is horrific, but this is how we know police officers see people of color. And this is why you have people protesting and standing up, because it's just, they have such a disregard when it comes to African Americans, Latinos especially. And so this is why we have to continue to have conversations, and it's really going to take the community to show up to police commissioner meetings, like I say, city council meetings, to have the type of police department that we want to see in our nation, because the one we have now is definitely proving to be racist and unfair to people of color.
I agree with that 100%. And you know, I have a friend that's an officer in Texas, and he had the question, why does black community look at police officers so differently? This video says it all. You always assume that we are the aggressive one. You always assume we're the one that's doing wrong. It's very clear how this escalated, right? And for this white young man to just be sitting on the couch, not really put to the ground like the black man was, right, but yet attended to make sure he was okay almost, was so disrespectful. So this is an issue across our country that we have to continue to work on and fix.
A Louisiana man is free after serving 44 years in prison for attempted rape. 69-year-old Vincent Simmons was released from prison on Monday. He had been sentenced to 100 years in prison for the attempted rape of 14-year-old twin white girls. But his conviction was vacated by a judge who said Simmons did not get a fair trial. Simmons was convicted by a nearly all-white jury in 1977.
First time he's ever received justice, and I think Judge Bennett said it on the record, and God used Judge Bennett to cut him loose. You know, he said that there's been multiple judges that ruled differently than he did. And he acknowledged it. And the system is broken.
Key evidence that may have exonerated Simmons was not shared by prosecutors with his lawyers in his original trial. That included a doctor's testimony that he did not find signs of sexual assault on either girl. We can talk about a series of wrongful convictions amongst black people until we're blue in the face. But what's interesting is that this is not anything new. I was reading a story on the Innocence Project that talked about between 1870 to 1960, there were 3,500 wrongful convictions of black people. They didn't even get the opportunity to go to trial. So this is before this even happened with this man here. So this is not anything new. It's just morphed into something totally different. And with those 3,500 people, we don't even know if some of them were innocent. And so it's just really unfair for black people, but it's not anything that's new.
Yeah, but this is what we talk about when we say systemic racism, and it needs to be addressed. You know, this man is free, but he lost most of his life in prison, which means that we have to really begin to address prison reform and understand that there's money attached to each prisoner that is in prison. There's a dollar amount attached to it. And so it benefits Core, Civic, and Geo, which are the two largest privatized prisons in this country. It benefits them when people are arrested, when prosecutors prosecute, and people are put in prison, whether they're guilty or not. And until this country starts addressing that issue, it's never going to change.
Yeah, I agree. Almost half a century of his life was lost, and he said he just kept his faith in God. Really a definition of all my life I had to fight, right? When you think about it. But now, look, sometimes they never even went to trial. So when we do have situations where there's trial and there's a jury and people of color get selected for jury duty, it's important that you show up, because we have to make sure people understand both sides of the story and hear the facts and give the real verdict.
Yeah, this is how democracy works. Now, the FDA has a new commissioner. The Senate confirmed Dr. Robert Califf over objections to his pharmaceutical industry ties. Opponents of his nomination argued Califf would not be aggressive enough in the fighting of the opioid epidemic. Now, the White House had to rely on 6 Republicans to get Califf confirmed. He served as FDA commissioner during President Obama's final years in office.
A police officer in Rialto, California is on leave after video of his arrest of a 16-year-old girl surfaced online. The girl was thrown to the ground by officers after she was seen riding a mini bike through her neighborhood. At one point in the video, the girl is heard screaming and crying. It also appears the officer had his hand around her neck. The end of the video shows the officer shoving the girl into the squad car. She has since been taken to urgent care for injuries from the arrest. Seeing this video is very disturbing. It's not the first time. We've seen it so many times over and over again. What bothers me is like the officer's identity is not being released. It's like you can see something like this happen. You can do something like this to a young girl, but we can't know who you are. How are you being protected in this situation? Whether she was riding a mini bike illegally or not, whether she was trying to maybe talk back to you, because that's some things that I heard, that's part of the job. You're trained to still handle that the right way, and they failed this one.
Romeo, I don't care if she was popping willies in the middle of the street. I literally don't. It doesn't even matter to me what was going on. This was so awful and insane. The Rialto Police Department, an apology for this. Even if we get the name of the officer, apology is not even enough. There comes a time where we're going to have to require a little bit more, because just saying that you're sorry for something like this, and I'm really happy that we edited out the young lady's face, because it is a graphic, terrible video. And you know, someone on Twitter said this is what happens to little girls in America. No, this is what happens to little black girls, and it must be stopped. And like I said, an apology just for this is not going to be enough.
All right, moving gears. The city of Portland is being sued by the family of a man police killed as he was having a mental health crisis. Michael Townsend called 911 for help because he was having an episode last June. Lawyers say Townsend told dispatchers that he was both bipolar and schizophrenic. Now, security cameras show Townsend approach cops with an object in his hand. The officer, Curtis Brown, was cleared of any wrongdoing by a grand jury. Townsend's family says mental health workers should have helped him and not police officers who were sent to the scene.
A man who took part in the January 6th attacks told a judge he lost his job and now has to deliver pizza. Edward McClannis is sentenced to 6 months in probation. That happened on Tuesday. Now, he pled guilty to 1 count of parading, demonstrating, and picketing in the U.S. Capitol. The former insurance salesman must also pay a $500 fine and do 60 hours of community service. More service charges, severe charges were dropped once McClannis pled guilty. Now, other insurrectionists have told judges stories of being fired from jobs, locked out of bank accounts, and even losing touch with their family members.
2 Kentucky lawmakers are trying to make it illegal to teach about institutional racism in state schools. The bill would ban critical race theory, which isn't even being taught in the state's public school system. Now, the law would require schools to teach about American victories over international socialism and communism. The mandate would also require schools to post all instructional materials publicly online.
Sentencing for the Minneapolis cop who killed Daunte Wright is scheduled for Friday. Kim Potter was found guilty of first and second-degree manslaughter in the April 2021 shooting death. She could face up to 15 years in prison for the first-degree charge and 10 years for the second-degree charge. Defense lawyers are asking for less because Potter has no prior record, but prosecutors say no. Potter should have to serve the lengthier sentence. Potter says she mistook her gun for her taser when she shot Daunte Wright. We can hear on the video her screaming over and over, taser, taser, taser. So it may have been a mistake. Some people saying not at all. But here's the problem. If there is a smaller sentence given, we don't want moving forward for those police officers that are not really doing their job 100% to use this as an excuse if this happens over and over again. That's what we don't want to happen. So it's unfortunate. A life was lost here, and she has over 20 years of experience. She should know better. So the lengthier sentence is something I agree upon.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave this up to the judge and the prosecutors. I mean, she doesn't have a record. She's definitely going to serve some time, which means she is going to be held accountable. So this one is like a catch-22. You know, we don't know what was in her mind. I don't feel the malice that I felt with like a Derek Chauvin, right? It doesn't feel the same. And so when we had Mayor Butts on before, you know, he explained sometimes when you're in the midst of such a heated situation, things do happen, and so it'll just be interesting to see how the judge finds a sentencing for her.
Yeah, Mayor Butts is a former cop, so I can see how he might sympathize or empathize, rather, with the situation. But many police officers have said that there is a physical difference in the feeling between those two weapons, and that with those decades of experience she had, she should have instantly known with the difference in feeling, the difference in color. It was clearly a grave mistake.
Absolutely.
Grave
you know,
mistake.
we all make mistakes at work, but it's just, like you said, it weighs way more heavily when a life was lost. And so, you know, for me to, you know, consider if there was malice or not, it really doesn't matter. A life was lost, and that just has to take precedence in this situation. Now, a Tennessee man is in jail 4 months after police say he yelled racial slurs and fired his gun at 2 McDonald's employees. Investigators say Charles Connors shot at the workers from his car in the drive-thru. Cops say Connors was upset about his order. Now, when the employees offered him a refund, he pulled out his gun and fired. No one was injured.